Well, Bitcoin is exciting because it shows how cheap it can be. Bitcoin is better than currency in that you don't have to be physically in the same place. And, of course, for large transactions, currency can get pretty inconvenient. The customers we're talking about aren't trying to be anonymous. You know, they're willing to be known. So the Bitcoin technology is key, and you could add to it, or you could build a similar technology where there's enough attribution that people feel comfortable. This has nothing to do with terrorism or any type of money laundering.
No banks, no fees, no inflation. These are the potential perks of this thing called Bitcoin. But is Bitcoin really the money of the future?
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoins.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Tim, you now own 30,000 Bitcoins, estimated value roughly $19 million. Are you that much of a believer in the virtual currency?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I think Bitcoin is as big a transformation to the finance and commerce industry as the internet was for information and communications, as peer-to-peer technology was to telephony. I think this is as big a change as any of those are, and I am very excited about Bitcoin and what it can do for the world. It's going to open up the world in even a bigger way than the internet did, right through commerce.
There is no Bitcoin building. There's not even a Bitcoin server anywhere that you could shut down. It is completely distributed. That's what's unique about Bitcoin. It is, for the first time, a way for the two of us to exchange value online without a third-party intermediary.
Bitcoin is something that you've been interested in and supportive of. In fact, one can pay for a tour on Virgin Galactic up to the moon with Bitcoin. I think the Winklevoss twins have said that they would do exactly that. Do you think this is a currency that's really going to work eventually?
Well, I think it is working, and there will be other currencies like it that may be even better. But in the meantime, there's a big industry around Bitcoin.
We are entering a completely world of uncharted water right now.
Have you made any investments in Bitcoin?
So, I mean, I own Bitcoin in my hedge fund. I own Bitcoin in my fund. I own Bitcoin in my private account. It is a huge deal. It's a huge, huge, huge deal. You're talking about trillions of dollars up for grabs. Up for grabs.
Told Bloomberg you're considering getting into Bitcoin. Have you done so yet? And what do you think of people like Jamie Dimon saying it's a fraud?
It's interesting because I think there's a lot of assets that are just their values based off supply and demand. You know, most stocks, there's no intrinsic value because you have no true ownership rights, no voting rights. You know, you just have the ability to buy and sell those stocks. They're like baseball cards. And I think Bitcoin's the same thing. Its value is a function of supply and demand. It doesn't really do anything else. I have bought some. I bought it through an ETN based on a Swedish exchange because that gave me liquidity.
Pure Bitcoin?
Pure Bitcoin, yeah.
When you think about why Bitcoin was created in the first place, like it was created to, in a way, displace these centralized big banks. I mean, why use a big bank if I can just give you money instead of going through the bank to give you money? I mean, that was the whole point of Bitcoin. So it's obviously like smart of these banks to be thinking about this as a potential risk.
John, why do you think the word bubble cannot be applied to Bitcoin?
Well, first and foremost, Bitcoin is not a fiat currency. It costs over $1,000 to create a Bitcoin today in electricity and computing costs. Second, the value of Bitcoin is linked to the number of users and the number of transactions. It is not a speculative investment, even though it is being used as such by many people. As the Bitcoin network grows, the value of Bitcoin grows. As people move into Bitcoin for payments and receipts, they stop using US dollars, euros, Chinese yuan, which in the long term devalues these currencies. So what you're seeing is more of a currency devaluation than a bubble in Bitcoin. As more people use it, it has more intrinsic value. And again, the cost of producing a Bitcoin increases with the value of the Bitcoin. So this is not something that we're pulling out of thin air. This is something that's created with massive amounts of electricity and computing power.